All right. So which flows work best for insights? The short answer is any flow, every flow will have insights. So you can see how any flow that you put together and you run and you get responses from how people, how to measure what people are saying and doing. But very specifically, we have a bunch of survey templates that you can use where the insights would be a powerful tool for you to quickly analyze and visualize the responses. So if you go into our flow template library, you can basically see all of our survey templates. We have career development, employee satisfaction, engagement, onboarding, new hire, exit, pulse survey. These are all really important for measuring employee feedback and doing it in a consistent way so that you can measure the results over time. So for an example, the employee, let me see, whoops. Employee NPS. This is a very quick way to measure how your employees feel about working there. It's 2 questions. How likely are you to refer working here to a friend or ex-colleague? You can make the scale 1 to 10, 1 to 5, however you'd like to measure it. And then you can ask them why they chose their number above. So if this is something that you like to run on a quarterly basis, I can show you really quickly how to do that, but I'll show you what the insights look like. So say I want to, this is the end of the quarter. So if I want to measure the sentiment at the beginning of Q2, you could say quarterly, and then you could set the time, how long people have to answer it. You can select you can adjust the content to say whatever you'd like to say. You can phrase it, you can add more blocks, you can remove these. It's very easy. And then you create the flow. And from here, you can decide who you want to participate in it. So if you want it to go to, a specific department, you could say department is engineering, and then it will automatically go out to everybody in the engineering department. You can also make it go to your entire organization. And to choose who can see this, you can select if you only want it to be yourself. You can select it to be, this is likely going to be private, so you want only specific people to see it. So if you wanted it to be, the HR department, you could select that, and then the results would only be visible to the HR department. And yourself, you will always have visibility into this. So only you and the people you designate can see what people are saying. So that's just a quick example. I'll show you what this looks like in real life. So we have, this is one of our demo NPSs. So we go into insights. This flow is run a few times. Takes it just a second, gathering all the data. Okay, so we have a total of 12 participants. So 12 people have responded to this, which is great. We've run this a few times, so people have participated at different levels throughout the different occurrences. And then, so this is just kind of showing you who's responded, at what percentage are people responding. And then this is really what you're probably most interested in, is what is the breakdown of people's responses. So we've had, I don't know, about 19 people say give 10s, 9 people say 6, or 9 people say 9, 6 people say 8, and so on and so forth. So pretty solid score. NPS, you want a 9 and a 10. But for the people who are saying 8, 7, and 5, you can see why they're saying that. And you can break this down. This is going out to very specific people within North America, but you can also break it down by their departments. And you can also break it down. You can break it down by individual people, whether they're managers or not. You can break it down by date range. So there's a lot of flexibility there. Something really cool that you can also look is the trends. So participation over time, are people super engaged in this survey or not? You can see how these trends. So if you had like Q1, you had excellent participation, Q2, maybe not so much, and so on and so forth. This is just the respondents. So we have a total of, we had at one point 13 and now we have 12. So pretty high number of respondents answering the flow. A percentage of blocks completed. There's 2 blocks. It's a 100% completion rate. That's great. But if you were to have a longer survey, you could see, okay, there's people are only doing like 50%, why? And we can show you which blocks are people skipping. This is the average. So this is a very important one. Like, what's your average over time? So this is a month over month measurement. So on average, we have a 9.1 rating, which is excellent. And then 100% of the people responded to tell us why. But this is probably the easiest and most important snapshot of your results. So that's just one example of many different types of surveys. So you can see if you have a survey, an engagement survey that might be 20 blocks or 30 blocks or something. Blocks is analogous to questions. You'll see a lot of really great data for each of those blocks. So short answer is surveys are fantastic, but any flow that you run can have, you can get some valuable insights from the data. Why does Celebrated Teammate not have insights? That is a great question, and one that we've gotten a few times. So most of you, for those of you who have been with Assembly from the beginning, before flows were even a thing, all we were was a recognition platform. So the only thing that you could do within our platform was to celebrate people on your team, give them points, write them a message, which is great. But since the expansion into flows, Celebrated Teammate is actually, while it looks and behaves and feels like a flow, it actually is our legacy experience that is kind of reshaped into flow form, just visually. So this actually isn't a flow. You may have noticed that you can't edit it. You can't select participants. You can't really make any customizations to this experience yet. So the insights that you get from here, you can find them in a few different places. And just to note, this will all be changing in the future. It's on our roadmap this year to convert this experience into an actual flow to give you all customizability, give you insights. But I'll show you a few ways you can gain insights from Celebrated Teammate. So if you're an admin, you go to admin, you can see overall insights here. This is just how people are engaging with the platform. This shows you, your current members, how many people are active, profile information, but here's a section specifically dedicated to recognition. So while you can't break this part down by person, this is an overall snapshot of how are people engaging with your recognition. So we've had, over the last 30 days, 495 recognition given, 544 people receive recognition, 148 comments on recognition posts, and 225 reactions to these posts. So we are, as a team, very engaged within our own platform. And then you can see recognition over time in here. So again, this is very specific to recognition, to this Celebrated Teammate flow that we have. And so that's one way to see overall engagement. If you want to get more specific, go to recognition, and we have this activity report. Some really good news on the horizon, I would say within the next month. This table is going to be supercharged and give you a lot of information across all of the ways that people can give and exchange points. So right now, this only shows you activity from that Celebrated Teammate experience. So we are going to expand this to give you recognition or points that are exchanged in flows, and kind of to tie this back to the first to the question of insights and which flows do you get insights from. You can actually create your own recognition flow that's separate from Celebrated Teammate. So if you were to do that, you create it using the flow builder, and you can add the ability for people to give points and shout people out, and any points exchanged in those flows will also show up here. Points that are given in comments will show up here. Points that people use for redeeming rewards will show up here. This is going to be your one-stop shop. It will be filterable by person. It will be downloadable if you just want a raw export. So while it's not the really nice visual of insights for Celebrated Teammate, you have all of the recognition data that you need in this table. And the supercharged version will be coming out in the next month, I'd say. What is the difference between data download and insights? This is also a great question. If you don't own a flow, you probably haven't seen insights, which means you probably haven't seen the data download. At the moment, both of these features are only available to flow owners. I'll talk in a little bit about the changes that we're going to make so you can designate more people to see this information. But for now, as a flow owner, let's go back to this ENPS. As a flow owner, you'll see the ability to download all responses, and you'll see the ability to see the insights. The reason we have it this way at first is we don't want anybody to be able to download these responses, because some of it might be private. And so we're going to introduce this concept of collaborators, which I'll talk a little bit more about in a sec. So insights, this is more of a visualization of your data. This is a more easily digestible way to understand how people are, answering your flow, and just understand the data in a visual way. Whereas the download data, download all responses, this is a raw export in a CSV that you can open up in Excel, and you can make pivot tables, you can filter it. If you prefer to be a little bit more advanced with your data manipulation, this is a great way. This is all data at all time for your flow, and you can break it down however you want. What do answer anytime and occurrences mean? This is also a really great question. So if you are familiar with flows, you may understand the concept of answer anytime or occurrences. The short of it is answer anytime allows participants to answer the flow even when you haven't prompted them to do so. So various templates, we suggest using one template or one trigger over the other, and that is already out of the box ready for you. You can always change a flow to be answer anytime or scheduled. That is very easy to do in the editor. But just for example, I'll show you an example of a flow that is not scheduled at all, is not on demand. It is something that anybody can answer at any time. So we have this general news feed. There's no trigger, which again means you can answer it anytime without prompting. This one, it's just a general, what are you posting? And then go ahead and share what you'd like to post. You can add GIFs, files, emojis, you can mention people to get everybody's attention in the company, similar to like Slack or Teams. You can tag everyone, and this will notify everybody of your post. But how you access this, so we already have a general news feed in our assembly. So you'll see I can answer this. There's no prompt for me to do it. There's no like, this has an active occurrence. There's no like, do this now, because general news feeds, it's like whenever you have something to share, you can share it. You don't need to be prompted to do so. So again, this is the same experience I just showed you. And then the post shows up in this feed and people can discover it on their own. They'll see that there's new activity. You'll see we bold things similar to how we do in Slack and Teams, how we bold when there's new activity, and you can check it out. If you're mentioned in something, you'll get a little badge that shows you you've been mentioned. So yeah, that's an example of an answer anytime. An occurrence happens when you are, our daily stand-up is a great example. This is a scheduled flow. And so every day, we share this across our team in India as well. So every day at 9 a.m. in India, this flow triggers and it creates an occurrence. So an occurrence is just a time-boxed opening of your flow where you're collecting responses. And once the time runs out, so you'll see that it's due in 9 hours and 6 minutes. After 9 hours and 6 minutes passes, this will no longer be answerable and people will not have the ability to submit the response until the next time, till the next occurrence. So the language occurrence is when there's a flow that's been triggered. You can also trigger a flow on demand. So if you're not running it on a schedule, you're like, hey, I want to know what y'all are thinking today, run now. That also creates an occurrence. I would like to see how my team is getting recognized and is engaging in the platform. So there's a little bit of overlap on this with the question about celebrated teammate not having insights. Couple ways to do this. most notably, we have, like I showed you, that activity report, but that's available to admins only. And I'll talk about some future enhancements for managers in just a little bit. But right now, if you go to Celebrate a Teammate, the quickest way to do this is you search and you can say, okay, if I'm looking for Brooke, or actually let's see how many I've given. Just in general, how many times have I given recognition? So, well, this is an entire filtered view of all of the times I've given people recognition over all time. You can narrow that down by date. So let's see, I want to see how many times I've been recognized. You can search some managers, you can search this for any of your direct reports. Anybody can see any of this. You can break it down. And this will show direct recognition. This will show when you've been recognized with other people. Very quick way to do that, just to get an idea. What you can also do if you want to see how anybody on your team is engaging with the platform, one great way is to go to their profile feed. So I'll just show you my own as an example. View my activity. And this will show anytime that I've been mentioned. This will show anytime that I've posted. This will show anytime that somebody has recognized me. This is just an overall feed of anytime I've been involved in any posts within Assembly. So a really great way to narrow those results down and just see, okay, if I haven't seen a post or any involvement in 2 months, like what's going on. You can see pretty easily how recently people have been active in the platform. So you can see anybody in your Assembly. If I wanted to see Matthias's profile, you can see all of his activity here. So you can also break this down by individual flows. You can see if they've mentioned anybody, you can see who's posted about this person. Very flexible ways there. On a higher level for admins, just to refresh, you can see the activity to see how many times people have been recognized and Celebrate a Teammate. You have the insights, that's overall how the company and how people within your company are using Assembly. And then a nice little enhancement that we're going to be providing to managers. Our big goal is to empower managers to empower their teams and increase productivity and morale and engagement. So we are working through a design for a manager email. It's basically a digest we'd send out to all managers about their direct reports activity within Assembly, like how many times have they answered a flow? How many tasks have they created? How many times have they like checked off things on their list? You know, as we're still working through what details we want to highlight, but you can see in this nice little snapshot in this email very quickly how your direct reports are doing. So any people that are listed as your direct reports in Assembly, if you are, just a quick side note on this, if you don't know how to configure your direct reports, if you're connected to an HRIS, this will automatically import, so you won't have to do this. But basically, you can go in, edit your direct reports, select. So I have a bunch of test accounts. So my direct reports, you can add or remove them at any time. And so whoever is listed in your settings as a direct report, you will receive an email including them in the summary. So a really fun feature that we're working on and should have in the very near future. One other way to engage your team, we have this notebook. I have so much to do today, but what I can do is if I have something that I need somebody else to do, or if I need to delegate some of my work to anybody else within the company, you can create a task. So say, you know, I want to help Katya B with upcoming projects. I could assign this to Katya. And this would show the task. I can add description. Need help with the deck, the email campaign, and the help article. And then this will show up for Katya in her notebook and her My Work section, and you can track and see the progress on the ticket. You know, if she changes the due date, if she changes the assignee, if it's not something that she can work on. This is a way also to engage people on your team to help track some work. If you need something from someone, go ahead and make them a task and give them a due date and write a thoughtful description so they know what you need from them. So that's a really great new way for you to engage with your team. One thing that we will be providing, we're going to work on this in the next month or two, is a way for you to track like progress on a ticket. So this is based on time, you know, if it's due today, if it's overdue, if it's upcoming, but we'll also have a way for you to visualize the status of the ticket. So yes, this due date is April 7th, but if Katya starts working on it tomorrow, she can move it to in progress and I'll see that there's been movement on her task. So a nice enhancement coming your way, but this is the kind of the baseline how to assign tasks to people. Can I create and see the results for an anonymous survey? Yes, we are on the brink of releasing anonymity within Assembly. I would say within the next week or two, you will have the ability to collect anonymous responses from people. So this is not something I can fully demo to you yet. I can show you like what it will look like. So we have this is a test survey for us, but if you wanted to run that ENPS survey that I just demoed to you earlier, you can make the responses all anonymous, or you can choose to make them anonymous optional, which if people aren't comfortable sharing with their name, they can opt to share it anonymously. So we have if somebody posts anonymously, it will show up in the feed as anonymous. You won't be able to filter by their name. You won't be able to filter by any identifiable information. You will in Insights. Insights for this is not fully baked yet. So this is something we're working on before we release. But anonymous results, like if you were to, so you see it shows up as NA, which is what we want. So you could see anonymous responses without their name, as well as the non-anonymous responses that have been submitted earlier. If you have a flow that was not anonymous and then became anonymous, all of the answers that were submitted when it was not anonymous will remain the same. You'll be able to see who posted it, and then any new posts will show up as NA in these insights. These insights we're still finishing up, but this kind of in general how this will look in here. You will be able to filter by department, even though it's anonymous. So say you run this ENPS and you want to see the sentiment of the engineering team. You could say engineering, and then you won't be able to see who in engineering responded, but you can still break those anonymous results down by departments and manager status, which is a really cool thing. So short answer is yes, you can create any flow to be anonymous or anonymous optional. And this is how it will look in the feed. So you'll see we made this anonymous later on because this is a newer functionality. So you see anonymous in posts in here. I know I'm scrolling quickly, but I'll show you what older posts before anonymity looked like. So Billy posted 9 days ago. This is before the flow was anonymous. So as you can see, her identity is actually preserved in here. But there will be no way for you to trace back who this post was. So it's truly protected, and people's identities are very safe, so they can answer honestly. How do I measure and understand the results over time? Yes, so for this one, there will be kind of a repeat of what I mentioned earlier, but just to show you where to find this, the over time, using this NPS as a good example. Over time, the best way, I mean, you can see all time, you know, all of the results here, but if say you ran this in Q1, like this isn't exactly Q1, but if I wanted to see the results for this occurrence, oh, we did not have anybody respond to this. So let's try this one. Okay, so we had less participation as I stopped asking people to give me the demo, but we could do 2. Great. So snapshots, this is where you'd use just to filter by a current start date, or you can easily just select a date range. And then the trends is really where you understand how your results are changing over time. Let me give you actually a better one that has more blocks. Actually, let's do this one. So this flow has like, I don't know, 10 blocks or so, but here's a great example. Unique respondents by week. How many people have responded week over week? The percentage of blocks completed over time. And then here you can see how many people have responded to the blocks. Different blocks will show you different information. So yeah, this is just completion of the flow. But if you wanted to see summary data over time, this is all time, and you can just narrow it down by dates here. So the trends is really where you see the trends of the data, but here again is just snapshot. How often does the data refresh? So we give you this little banner here to remind you, but the overall update happens every hour on the hour. So at the top of the hour, if anybody has responded in the last hour, you'll see those results get put into here. So if somebody answers and you're trying to see immediately how that looks in the results, you won't be able to until the data refreshes. Can I schedule to receive an automated report on these? This is a great feature suggestion. We do not have an automated report for your flow data yet. That's something we could certainly think about. And if any of you have any thoughts on what you'd like to see in this report, like, do you want to see the completion rate? Do you want to see a summary of the data? Do you want to see all of the things? We can certainly construct this. And, you know, if you run a flow and you're like not actively looking at it and you get an email when it's finished, and this would have to be for flows with occurrences, by the way, or if you have an answer anytime, we'd have to schedule that like on a monthly basis or something. But if you're running a survey and you want an email summary when it's finished, that's certainly something that we can build, and would love any of your input on that one. I can't see insights for a flow. So I mentioned this before. Right now, only the flow owners can see the insights. So for example, let's see, what's one that I'm not an owner of? So I'm not the owner of this flow. As you can see, there is no insights tab for me. There is no editor tab for me. There is no download data option for me. Although for ones that I do own, this looks a little bit different. So I see the insights, I see the editor, I can download all the responses, I can decide who to share it with, I can remind people to answer it when there's an active occurrence. These are all of the powers of the flow owner. But I alluded to this earlier, we'll have this concept of collaborators. So the full version of collaborators will be, you can designate certain people to be able to edit the actual flow itself. The first version, that's the quickest for us to implement, is just giving access to certain people for just viewing the insights and downloading the responses. So if you're the head of HR and you want people on your team to be able to monitor this or pull the responses or download the CSV and create some pivot tables, we'll be introducing that concept very soon. And people will be able to see more things in here. And then the full functionality for collaborators will be like, if you're sharing a Google Doc, for example, you can give people the power to edit or comment or that. So our version of that will be editing the content, the trigger, and then selecting who you can share the flow with.